The problem is not with the political criticism against what this is welcomed, and it's the personal, vicious attacks and scrutiny and lies and slander that happens not one day, not 2 days, not 1 week, not 1 month, but for year after year after year for 30 years. And frankly, it's really exhausting and it never ends. And it's not from the left side of Israel, it's from a small group, very small group of mainly radical fringes of Israeli societies that took control of the mainstream media. The mainstream media doesn't represent the Israeli people, doesn't even represent the Israeli left. It represents a very small, extreme, fringe, insignificant part of the Israeli society, but they have all the power. Since social media came into significance, so suddenly the common man, the average Israeli, like you have, middle America, so the middle Israel, have a voice for the first time in Israel history. So, it's very encouraging that the silent majority of Israel suddenly have a way to express itself. And this is part of the reason I got into social networks, because my whole life, since I was 3 years old, 5 years old, I've been watching television and, being so angry of the injustice. It's the injustice more than all. And, when there is, suddenly I cross into the opportunity of social media to actually respond to them, to say to, in Twitter, it's even more direct because you just write directly to the journalist itself. Oh, really? You just published today in the news edition so-and-so? Well, this is an utter lie, and here's the fact, and here's why it's a lie. And most of them don't have an answer. They just ignore it. But, that's the main reason I went into social media, because I cannot tolerate injustice, and I've been quiet my whole life in the face of evil and injustice, and now I have a tool to balance it. It works 24/7, and it's not a job, it's a life mission. It's a mission to save the Jewish people from annihilation, and to not only make them to survive, but also thrive. And I think this is one of the most incredible things that my father have done, that I'm so proud with it, that he took a country back in the 1990s that were both, besides the existential threat that it was in a horrible economic, it was pretty much Soviet-style economy, socialist, primitive economy, and no exports, for example, besides, oranges or something like this, and he made it into very isolated in the world. Obviously, the main reason that Israel was isolated is because it was weak. Nobody wants to be friends with the weak. Everybody wants to be friends with the strong. I think that to do what we did in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria, and having no control over the Jordan River, not to stay in the Israeli settlements, not to stay in our historical important areas there, archaeological areas there, strategically leverage high points of the military, I think that will be an existential threat of Israel, and I don't think Israel can last too long in a 10-wide-mile country.
But 2008, 2009, your father gave the Bar Ilan speech, and he spoke about a two-state solution. He hasn't really spoken about it of late. Does he take your advice on political issues? Do you discuss political issues with him?
No, hardly completely. I have, my own independent, of course, Shabbat dinner with my whole family, and my brother and my mother and other guests. Of course, like every Israeli family mostly talks about what's happening in the news and stuff like that. But I hardly get to see him, by the way, because he's, beside the 5 hours he sleeps every day, my life is his life, so we don't see each other too much, unfortunately. I would love to have more quality time with him, but this is the cost of being the prime minister. And I'm 28 years old, so obviously I am not I'm not a proxy of my father. I am my own person.
And he gives you the freedom to say whatever you want.
Again, I'm 28 years old, so sometimes he's not so happy with stuff I said, but it's like, you know, what can you do? You know, if I was 16, he could grab it, but you know, we reached the point that, you know, I'm my own man, you know, so what can you do? For my personal sake and for my family's sake, every single day, I wish he would never gone into politics, really. But for the sake of my country and the sake of my people and the sake of my land, I think I'm blessed like any other Israeli citizen that he has been the prime minister that did so much for for our country and for the Jewish people, and took us away from the course of Oslo and the disengagement back to, you know, being rooted to our land, being proud in our land, being proud in our country. Closing the border with Egypt, it really saved us because, you know, building the wall and saving us from completely being washed by waves of illegal immigration, making our economy prosperous, making our international status the strongest it's ever been since pretty much King Solomon. So I am happy for the sake of the country, but I am, of course, not pleased for the sake of our personal life, you know, so.